Hi, welcome to COPD Health Tips. My name is Chuck, and I hope you bear with me because I haven't had to do this for quite a while. But I'm hoping that the videos that we produce will help you, like the techniques that I used, developed, and found over the years have helped me to prolong my life with COPD. I've had COPD probably since I was in my 30s. But I officially wasn't diagnosed with it until around 2003. And at that time, what happened was I had a lung bleed. And the reason I had the lung bleed was basically because I had a lung infection and I coughed too hard and too long. And I figured, well, if I just cough hard enough, I can get this out and I'll be able to breathe better. Well, what happened one night is I was pretty well into the infection and coughing in bed at night, and pretty soon it didn't taste like sputum anymore. It tasted like blood. And I went up and got into the bathroom and coughed again, and then a very large amount of blood came out and scared me to death. I actually thought I was going to bleed out. It bled fairly well, even a half an hour after I was already in the emergency room, before it decided to slow down. And it's funny because I was in the emergency room after the doctor had seen me. And I was so afraid of coughing. I was actually feeling like I was drowning in my own blood. And the emergency room nurse got so mad at me. She said, "If you're going to cough, cough. You're in the hospital now." But that's when I was officially diagnosed. I ended up having to stay in a hospital for a week. They wouldn't let me go until I could cough and not produce a blood clot or more blood in my sputum. And at that time, I was officially diagnosed at 30% lung function. And there was a couple of years had exacerbation and another infection, and it went down to 20%. And quite a few years after that, another exacerbation. They ended up being diagnosed with 10% lung function. So it's a progressive disease, and you got to be very careful on how you take care of yourself. The sooner you do something about it, the better your chances are of not living a normal life, but extending the life that you do have. The disease is progressive, and it never stops. There's no cure. And if you don't know, there isn't any cure, you know now. And probably if something else doesn't take your life in your lifetime, the COPD will. Now, you can arrest it for a while, and you can slow it down for a while, but you can't completely stop it. One thing I wanted to mention right off the bat, too, is in the later stages of COPD. So if you see the camera stop and then turn back on, you know, I kind of had to stop and take a couple breaths and catch my breath. I've had the very terrible experience of actually watching someone pass away with COPD, and that was my beloved wife. She passed away in 2010 in the very next room in hospice, and it's not fun because as you're getting shorter and shorter breath, you're actually, over the years, you're actually suffocating to death. So, like I said, whatever you can do now, whether you've had it for a few years like I have, or if you've had it just a few months, have been diagnosed maybe a year. With the new medications, like I said, techniques and procedures nowadays, it's a great improvement from whenever I had it. I almost died from a viral infection in 2011 over the Christmas holidays between 2010 and 2011, right after my wife passed away. Got pneumonia and almost passed away. And There was nothing more scary than having the pulmonologist or come in and say, you know, there's nothing more I can do for you. You're getting everything you can, which really left me in a bind, because if there was nothing else that they could give to me, then it was either I was going to live and make it through or die. Well, it really put it to me. But I've still been, it's been, what, 7 years, 2018 now. I'm still recovering from that. And I've had a couple exacerbations since then. And mostly those exacerbations have been trying to overdo it, because I have been pushing myself to the limits and trying to experiment and do everything that I can to make my way of living better. And there's a lot of things that I found that worked and don't work. So, and I'm also going to put those in the videos too that can help you. So, the other thing is, pretty much, I knew I was in trouble before 2003. And when I was in my 30s, probably in my mid-30s, where I live, there's hills here. And down in the valley is where our supermarkets and shops and stores are. And I actually had to walk home one day, which is up on the hill. And never had to walk very much, you know, had a driver's license, drove everywhere I needed to go. Well, this one time I had to walk up that hill to come home. And I barely got past 3/4 of the way up the hill, and I had to stop and sit on a brick wall and try to catch my breath for about a half an hour. I just could not catch my breath. And I couldn't breathe in, I couldn't breathe out. I got so weak and so drained. And I believe that's probably the first time I had an actual breathing attack, where it just, nothing I did helped. And for the rest of the way home, like, if you ever seen one of them movies with an old codger going across the room at a half step at a time because he can't go any faster, that's pretty much the way I made it the rest of the way home. You know, but yeah, I was in trouble before that. I didn't pay attention to it. I mean, you know, I figure people my age in their 30s usually start having trouble going up and down steps, you know, and stuff like that. And, if I was getting really busy or had a big project going on, I'd go down to the drugstore. And back then they had Broncaid tablets or Broncaid mist. I never used the Broncaid mist, but I'd slip in a couple Broncaid tablets, and because if I had a big project going on, you know. So, but anyway, without further ado, this is our introduction, and I hope you watch all the videos. What I do need to say is, if there's anything with these videos that you would like to try or do, please, please, please pass them by your therapist, your primary care physician, or whoever takes care of you medically, and ask them if it's okay. You can, next time you see them at the doctor's office, you know, say, hey, look, I see all these videos, I want to try them out, what do you think, you know? Or I saw this technique, I want to show you this technique that I learned. Is it okay to use it? Am I hurting myself? Because you don't want to do anything to hurt yourself. And I don't want you to do anything to overexert yourself. That's why it's so important to get clearance from your doctor or your therapist or wherever you go to see that takes care of you medically with your COPD and get clearance. One last thing I'd like you to do, we also set up a forum for people with COPD, and it's called copdhelpgroup.com. That's www.copdhelpgroup.com. And it's brand new. There's probably not many members yet, but if you join, just don't let that stop you from joining. Go ahead and sign up and join. We're not going to send you any emails or bug you or drive you crazy or anything else like that. We're not even going to bother you. unless you say something bad on there. But otherwise, and it's for anything you want to talk about. If you want to talk about COPD, you want to talk about your medications, you want to talk about something that you found that helped you out, that you want to share with other people. If you want to talk about being aggravated or pissed off or just sick and tired of being sick and tired, more than welcome to. More than welcome to. We'd enjoy having you. So that's copdhelpgroup.com. And I want to thank you very much for watching this video. And the other videos, they're going to have a title on them. You can see the titles and stuff. But I do urge you, please, 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 look at every one of them. As a matter of fact, what you should do, this is one thing I would like you to do before you even talk to your doctor, is get a pencil and a paper and a notebook, okay? And when you see these videos, write stuff down. It helps you remember. And like I said, you can see the videos over and over again. There's no problem. But at least when you have a neat notebook and paper, you can write it down and say, oh, that's pretty good. I'm going to try that. You know. So anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, and hopefully we'll get these videos rolling out to you and they help you. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching.